Welcome to Edge of the Rabbit Hole. We have a great episode coming up for you tonight. Mark Anthony, the psychic lawyer, is back with us. Of course, with me as always is my co-host Vanessa Hogel and our chat shenanigator Shauna down in the chat room shaking things up. So got a couple of housekeeping things to take care of real quick. And well, first and foremost, we just hit 7,000 subscribers here on the Haunted Road Media channel. Really just kind of blew past that. And so we have to do a giveaway. And we did it a little bit differently last time. We're going to go back to the old way here for a little bit because with the move and everything, I don't have time to get creative here. So just go ahead anywhere but here on YouTube and on any of our social media, whether it's the Haunted Road Media Facebook page or on Twitter, or just message me or what have you. Just let us know you want to be entered into the contest. We'll throw your name in the hat and we'll draw that next week. So Vanessa, we do have a couple of other housekeeping things real quick, and then we're gonna get to Mark. So yeah, 7,000 subscriber giveaway. I got my list here. White Rabbit Notification Squad, do your thing. Get your notifications out there, since we know that not all of them go out here on YouTube. So share it, whatever you do. And if you want to be part of that, check with Donna Gorton, one of our Cheshire Cats. We also have a new title that we need to dish out here for the Haunted Road Media YouTube channel. There's a $10 super chat from Tom McNicholas. Says congrats on 7,000. Well, thank you very much, Tom McNicholas. So this title is for Diane Hilbert, who I had the pleasure of meeting this past weekend at the Ocean State Paracon. She is Haunted Road Media's Fairy Queen. So there you go, Diane. All right.
Bless her.
Yeah,
love that woman.
She's fantastic. She's fantastic. So, all right, anybody that's new to the channel, please go ahead and subscribe. Click the little bell icon to get notifications. And by all means, everybody else, share it out. So, we have Mark Anthony back with us. You may remember him from last September. Mark Anthony, the psychic lawyer, a.k.a. psychic explorer, is the author of the award-winning, critically acclaimed bestsellers Never Letting Go and Evidence of Eternity. He's a world-renowned fourth-generation psychic medium who communicates with spirits. Mark is an Oxford-educated attorney licensed to practice law in Florida, Washington, D.C., and before the United States Supreme Court. In England, he studied mediumship at the prestigious Arthur Findlay College for the advancement of psychic science. Welcome back, Mark. Great to have you here again.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Vanessa. It's always great working with you guys.
Thank you.
Yeah. Our episode with you last year, our interview with you, was a favorite amongst our viewers. So we had to have you back. And I know Vanessa and I had a lot of fun with it.
Oh, thanks. And thank you to all the viewers for tuning in. And I'm so happy to see that your show keeps getting bigger and bigger and more popular. I think that's great.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, we were discussing something. I'm going to jump right
into it because it was interesting.
Okay. We were discussing something before the show started. Mark and I were about his recent trip to a place I've never been, would love to go, would especially love to go now, even though it would seem an odd choice. Mark, why don't you go ahead and tell us where you were, what you were doing, and what you experienced?
Well, I was in Hawaii for a couple weeks, and I was working with some men known as kapu. And kapu would be the equivalent of a priest in the Hawaiian religion. And it was fascinating because we're also doing a lot of filming, and that's part of my brand is the psychic explorer. People think, okay, psychic lawyer, and all I do is, work on cold cases in addition to doing readings, and that's certainly something, a big component of my work. But as a psychic explorer, what I do is I visit mystical and spiritual locations around the world to uncover the history, mystery, myths, legends, find out, what are these belief systems? How do they have similarities to other belief systems, parallels? And so my adventures, if you will, took me to Hawaii. And it was really fascinating going to what they call heiau, which are the ancient temples, which are throughout Hawaii. And I know what you want to find out about, Vanessa, is I spent 3 hours in a helicopter over Mount Kilauea. Now, unless you've been living in a cave, everybody in the world is aware that Kilauea, which is the volcano or one of the volcanoes on the big island of Hawaii, has erupted. I believe it went into full eruption mode back in April. And there's volcanologists from all over the world studying it. And as part of the film project that I was working on, excuse me, we were in a special helicopter. It was kind of like a civilian version of a Black Hawk helicopter. It was small, extremely aerodynamic. And most of the helicopters, and pretty much all of them except the one that we're in and the ones that weren't military, that are flying over Kilauea, they're kind of like buses. They're real wide and they sit four people across. But we're going on this really fast helicopter that had a 1,500 millimeter lens in the camera. And what was really cool is the pilot, his name was Ryan, and the cameraman is a gentleman by the name of Mike Prickett. And Mike Prickett, it was such an honor to meet him. And what was cool is that my manager, Rocky, she knew him through the film industry. Mike is a hero in Hawaii. He is a scuba diver, and a few years ago, they were diving very, very deep. And one of the Hawaiians he was working with, he ran out of air. And Mike risked his own life and did a deep dive, rescued him, but suffered from nitrogen narcosis, which is commonly known as the bends. And he was completely paralyzed. And they thought, doctors thought he'd never walk again. Well, Mike is walking again. He's using crutches. I mean, he can get around, and he is every bit the incredible cameraman. I understand he still scuba dives. The man is a walking miracle. So, Mike Prickett, if you're, I hope you honor us by watching the show. So, what the Kapu were doing with me, the Hawaiian priests, is they're bringing me to various spiritual locations to see what I was picking up energetically and vibrationally. And, people think of Hawaii that it's just sort of beaches, sun, sand, hula girls, Waikiki Beach, Mai Tais, and good surf. But it is an ancient culture, a very, very ancient culture. It is unlike any other place in the world. It is one of the 50 United States, but it's not part of North America. It has a Polynesian influence, but it is not part of Polynesia. It has a lot of large Asian population, Filipino population, but it is not part of Asia. It is one of the, if not the most remote island group in the world. The closest land is 2,000 miles away. And so over the last millennia, the Hawaiians have developed a very, very sophisticated and nothing symbolizes that spirituality more than the goddess Pele, who is the Mount. And when we look at gods and goddesses, if you look at, let's say, Mount Vesuvius in the Bay of Naples, in Greco-Roman mythology, the god Vulcan, or Hephaestus, but in Latin it was Vulcan, he was the god of the volcano. In Hawaii, Pele is not the goddess of fire. She is fire. She is not the volcano. She's not the volcano. She is the volcano. She is one and the same. Even though the Hawaiian pantheon of deities number and so the general thought in Hawaii is that Pele is erupting because she's angry. And so when we're flying over, all of a sudden Mike Prickett goes, "So Mark, what are you getting?" And let me set the scenario before I get into what I was experiencing spiritually. When we're flying over, and we didn't go directly over the caldera because we'd be incinerated, but we were pretty close to it. And at 3,000, we opened up, the camera crew opened up the door of the helicopter. So we're flying over it. I've never seen anything like this. I've been all over the world. I've seen all kinds of things. I've been to Glacier Bay. I've been to the Amazon jungles. I've been to the walls of the Kremlin. I've never seen anything like this. The lava's just shooting up all over the place. and the river of lava is clearly at least a mile wide, and then it branches off and it's hitting the ocean in dozens of places. So there's these huge steam vents. You can see all along the Big Island this huge crack, and there's steam coming up out of it. Those are called fault vents. So there's a major geological activity going on here. Well, the lava's 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit. It is wreaking havoc on local weather patterns. So we're in this like souped up helicopter bouncing all over the place. We're hanging on and getting all this. And Mike goes, so what do you feel? And people were saying, well, Pele's angry. What I felt was the pain of childbirth. And I felt this sense of desperation. I also felt that she was establishing that I am the dominance here, not you humans, and she is unhappy about the violation. Well, that may sound odd at first blush until while we're flying over this, there's a huge geothermal plant, and the lava has encroached upon the outer perimeter, if you will, of the geothermal plant. And what I understood after we landed is that with the power plant, it was necessary to drill deep into the ground. I mean, I figured, oh, there's just steam coming up and they'd cap it. They had to go deep in the ground, and they're actually tapping into the Earth's heat and energy. So you can look at it one of two ways. You can look at everything that's going on is simply a geological reaction, and what they're doing at the plant is similar to fracking, where you go in and you flood an area with water and then start sucking out the minerals and everything else, and that's essentially what this power plant's doing. Or you can look at it as this area is so energetically active. I mean, talk about a vortex. This is 1,000 vortexes. The electromagnetic energy, the power of the Earth itself, the magma, which is turning into lava, shooting up. I mean, yesterday there was a lava bomb where there was an explosion and it hit a boat several miles from the explosion, way out in the ocean. And if the Earth is energy, and if energy is part of the collective consciousness and the sentience that connects everything, then this was it. This was it. So that, in a nutshell, is part of what I experienced, and I hope that answers your question, Vanessa.
It does. Oh, I'm echoing.
Yeah.
No, that is exactly what I wanted to hear, and what I wanted everybody else to hear is, because when we think of spirituality, when we think of paranormal, when we think of anything outside the realm of normal, it always has to be ghosts or demons or shadows or something like that, when we forget where that very energy comes from, and that when it's disturbed in a fashion that is violating at best.
Yes.
There are going to be repercussions, and it's going to be explosive, and it's going to be in a way that makes you stop and take notice, whether you believe in this stuff or not. And I feel like that is the case there. That is the case there. It's a big warning sign saying hello.
Well, Pele, who is Kilauea, who is Pele, is giving birth. The Big Island's a lot bigger now. There's something I think it's 2 square miles of land, and what we're seeing is this is how Earth, the continents, life was created on this planet, is an eruption that of the Earth's inner heat, inner energy. And what's going on when the lava flow that's coming out of the caldera? The caldera is the mouth of the volcano, and the lava flow that's coming down looks to be like a mile wide, and so it's flowing, and then it breaks off into branches, and it's hitting the ocean. Well, 2,000 degrees, it's boiling the ocean, and as the lava is hitting the ocean floor, it's going from superheated to cooling, and then it layers and layers and layers, and then a new land is emerging from the ocean. So we are actually seeing an ongoing process. People think about the creation of the earth and, whether it's the Big Bang or God created it in 7 days or, whatever you want to believe. But we're seeing this happening. And what this lets us know, Mike and Vanessa, is that creation is not something that happened billions of years ago. It is an ongoing process. It's also indicative of the balance between male, female, light, dark, creation, destruction. Pele is seen as a mother energy, Mother Earth, and she's also representative of the passion of the female energy. And the ocean is viewed by the Hawaiian spiritualists as male. And there's several different names for it. Some is Kamupua'a, others Kanaloa. But either way, it's the confluence and the clashing of the male and female energies, which is then resulting in the birth of new land. So it's very interesting from that point. But to actually get what I understood to be sentient feelings from what could easily be passed off as a geological phenomenon was nothing short of astounding.
No, I would agree. You're blessed to be able to have seen that. That is amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was so surreal when it was happening. I mean, watching this, and then when I landed, it was like, I can't believe that actually happened. I can't believe that I went through that. So I'm extremely grateful. And I was talking to the pilots, and they were laughing. They're going, yeah, 6 months ago, we'd see a little bit of lava, we get all excited, and now we're seeing this. And they said, no matter how many times we see this, it never gets old. They go, this blows our mind every day.
I can see why.
Yeah, it's amazing. But these different energies over the long haul, they're supposed to balance each other out, right?
I would think so, but as far as the scientists can tell, there's no end in sight. I mean, it just goes to show you, what is Earth? I've read about. I always like geology, and the thought is that the Earth, there's the crust and it's this layer, and then we're sitting on basically a giant glob of this superheated material. And then the thought is that the center of the Earth is this giant iron magnet. Well, we don't know if that's what it really is, but we certainly know that the Earth's got plenty of lava, and it doesn't seem like it's going to be stopping anytime soon.
Now, I'm going to go out on a limb here, and then I'm going to hush up for a minute. But
oh, you're fine.
Because Pele is female, Ocean is male. And what we are seeing and what you saw firsthand was the lava coming down unbelievably hot, meeting the ocean and creating, like you said, new land. Would that qualify? Because you and I talked before the show when you said, childbirth, and I said rebirth at the same time, it just so much made sense. But are we witnessing reparations?
We could be. I mean, Pele is asserting her dominance. I am the power here. I mean, that's what I kept getting. I try to go into any paranormal investigation like the two of you do. You have to go in open-minded. If you go in with a preconceived notion, well, the gods are angry, and I wasn't getting anger. I was getting the pain of childbirth. I was getting desperation and a need to assert. So I think that to say something like, Pele's angry, it would be too simplistic. Also, there's the passion, and yet in destruction arises creation, and this is the yin, the yang, the light, the dark, the ultimate balance in the universe. And what we do know from the laws of physics, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So we have this incredibly turbulent volcanic explosion and eruption and lava flow, and that's the action. What's the reaction is new land is forming. It's really quite amazing.
Pristine land, not touched by those who wish to harm it, not touched by business, not touched by trash, not touched by any of that, reparations, righting of wrongs?
I did get one opportunity to visit an area of, let's say, recently cooled lava, and it was really cool. It was, I can only imagine this must be what the U.S. astronauts who walked on the moon felt like, because when I was walking on the lava, it was crunching beneath my feet, and I could see my footprints, and I realized I was the only person ever to have set foot there. And, you know, as a kid, growing up near the Space Center, my dad being involved with NASA and the space program, I always wanted to be an astronaut. And for that time, I felt like, wow, this is the closest it's ever going to be to walking on the moon or taking, you know, a step on Mars. So it was an extremely humbling privilege to do this.
Wow. I'm so jelly.
But I'll tell you what, though, bouncing around in that helicopter, I mean, there was times it was like, woo, because what's going on is with the 2,000 degrees temperature, even though we're 3,000 feet above it, we could feel the heat coming up, and it's wreaking havoc on the weather patterns there. So it start raining, and then it get clear, then it gets windy, and then there's the currents in the air. So we're bouncing all over the place, and all I can say is, Ryan, the pilot, if you're listening, man, are you a good pilot. He was great.
I'd have tossed my cookies.
Yeah, but you bring up a good point. You know, a volcano like that is going to, you know, change the weather patterns, and so therefore, you know, this one volcano, you know, under the earth and even above the earth with the weather is having an effect on the entire planet. So,
sure.
Do you get a sense that, you know, not only around there in Hawaii but elsewhere around the planet? You know, we were talking before the show about how everything's connected. Are you getting a sense that other areas of the earth are always also being affected?
That's a great point, Mike. And, you know, it gets back to that if a butterfly flaps its wings in Central Park, it rains in China.
Right.
But we do know that, you know, winds that come out of the mountains in Africa and go across the Sahara and eventually turn into hurricanes. So we have a funnel coming out of the earth with 2,000 degree temperatures. I mean, if the boiling temperature of water is 212, this is 10 times hotter than boiling water. I mean, it was amazing when we're flying over and you're seeing rock formations that are getting incinerated by this. All right, so if this can melt rock, I mean, liquefy mountains, I mean, certainly that amount of heat is going to be changing things. I mean, it's boiling the ocean, it's killing life there yet in the ocean, yet creating new land. So certainly this is going to affect weather patterns, and you could taste it too. I mean, it took me about, we left the Big Island and went back to Oahu, which is where Honolulu is, and that's 250 miles away, and for 3 days I could still taste it.
Oh,
because
wow.
we're getting carbon dioxide, yeah, and there's a lot of people with chronic respiratory problems, and, you know, I was hitting up the Flonase. I mean, I was as prepared for it as you could be, and I even had special, you know, masks and things in the event that the sulfur dioxide, which is one of the chemicals emitted, but it's definitely changing everything.
Yeah, it's supposed to make the air really toxic.
Oh yeah, yeah, and now they're very they meaning the authorities in Hawaii, they really don't want people doing what I did and hiking near the volcano because of what happened yesterday. And actually the day before I got there, got to Hawaii, there was an explosion, and they call them lava bombs. And this chunk of lava hit this guy and went right through his leg. I mean, it just melted his leg. And so when there's these explosions, they go like miles into the air, and then there's this flaming hot chunks of lava raining down for miles in every direction. So it can be extreme, not can be, it is extremely dangerous.
Yeah.
That's terrifying.
Yeah, it is. I mean, what you know, we talk about seeing spirits and negative energy and all this, but when you see something like that, you know, I mean, it shows you it really puts us in perspective. We may think, oh, we're this and we're that, but it all comes down to we really can't control Mother Nature. She's in control, and LA is reminding us of that.
No, the destructive force of nature is just insane. I've seen some of the footage of the lava flows just totally incinerating cars and things like that. And it's like nothing. It's like eating it up like butter.
It is. It is. Hawaii is a very complex, very I don't want to say original. I'm going to say unique place. It's exotic in that it's beautiful, but very, very unique because the Hawaiian spirituality, we talk about energy, and every psychic medium and every paranormal investigator talks about energy, and then in the philosophical and new agey sense, we talk about how we're all interconnected. Well, the Hawaiians discovered this 1,000 years ago, and they refer to this as mana. And everything has mana. It is energy. It is the energy which flows through us, with us, around us, and interconnects all of us.
You just described the force.
Well, that's exactly what it is. And the force, actually, I'm giving a talk at the IANS, the International Association of Near-Death Studies, and I don't want to give it away. But George Lucas did have a near-death experience when he was a teenager. And when you look at, I had a near-death experience as a child, both my parents did. And when you come out of that, you realize that, yes, we're individuals, but that does not mean we are isolated entities, that we are energetically interconnected. And so a century ago, you had Einstein, Heisenberg, and Planck developed what we now know as particle physics, quantum physics, which clearly states that everything is energy and all energy is interconnected. So the Hawaiians understood this. The Hindus understood this. I think the Egyptians understood this. And this is something that people that get to a certain spiritual level realize that we really are all interconnected. The illusion and the falsity is that, well, we're all separate and therefore we're better than you and our belief system's better than you, so we get to eradicate you because we're better, and that's really flying in the face of what the reality really is. I mean, the truth and the reality of existence is that we're all interconnected.
So basically, in history, by annihilating entire groups of people or subjugation or killing of entire, entire colonies and towns and groups of people, essentially when we do that, when we're killing others, we're essentially killing ourselves because we're all interconnected and we all need each other to survive.
So very, very interesting point. Perhaps that's one of the life lessons that we come into this incarnation to understand. I remember I was talking about this on a radio show. A friend of mine, Koji, he had a radio show which broadcasts out of Las Vegas, and I was saying, we need to get along, and they're all African American. They go, yeah, well, now that we've had our kumbaya moment, the reality is there is a huge disparity between people, which society has created, and that certainly is true, and that's one thing that we as spiritualists have to set the example and realize that we have to overcome that. The thing is, I don't know if we're ever going to evolve into the Republic of Kumbaya here in the material world.
Well, the sad part about it is it's all around us. All we have to do to understand that that's the way that it should be is watch our children when they're born. You're not born hating.
No.
You're not born wanting to kill. You can put a Chinese child and a Caucasian child and a black child and an Arabic child all in the same crib, and you know what they're going to do? They're going to play.
Yeah, they're going to play.
Yep.
Yeah, nobody's born a bigot.
No.
Born a bigot.
No, but the superior idea that seems to run rampant in so many different societies
Yes.
is what is killing us. and it's a lot of people want to say that all wars in history were based on two main things: resources and land. And that is true to a certain degree, but when it comes right down to it, if you want to get down to the nitty-gritty of it, it boils down to one thing: we are better than you, therefore we deserve to survive over you. Because we can't live together based on our bigotry, we have to go over you and annihilate you in order to persevere and succeed and prosper. And that's the attitude that we need to get rid of. And I think that that's what these different energy things that are happening around the world, like with Pele, is trying to tell us. Our petty differences and what we feel don't mean dick. Because all it takes is Earth getting pissed off just a little bit to show us exactly how minute we really are.
That's a good way of putting it. You know, I've had the privilege of meeting a number of astronauts, and I've met Neil Armstrong, I've met Buzz Aldrin, I met John Glenn, I met Mike Foreman, who piloted the space shuttle, and they told me that when you're on the moon, and Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin, and all of a sudden you see the Earth rise. Okay, you know when I think about the Earth rise, I think about when the moon comes in. They said when you see the Earth rise over the horizon on the moon, how big and beautiful and alive it is, and then you look at the infinity, the vastness of space, they said, wow, it really, really puts things in perspective.
Yeah, that has to be truly amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, I mean, I was blown away by Pele. I can't even imagine what it would be to be in space and to see the Earth from an angle like that. The other thing that the astronauts have told me is, what color do you think space is?
All.
Yeah, I don't think it... Yeah, all colors, because it doesn't necessarily have... You see it all out there, right?
Well, they say, like we're used to watching.
Does it not have a color?
I mean, this is Star Wars, and it looks black with star. It's a deep, deep, deep aqua color.
Oh,
really?
Wow.
Yeah, I was surprised they said that. Wow. They also said it smells. I go, what do you mean it smells? I go, it has a smell.
It has a smell. Okay.
Has a smell. I was like, okay, you know, I would.
What's
like
it smell like then?
Yeah, I never thought of space having a smell, and you know, I thought it was just black with a bunch of stars, and of course some colorful things. But they say it's a very very deep aqua color, and I thought that was so amazing, when I heard that.
Wow.
Never in a million would I guess.
I would have guessed that. So, what does it smell like? Did they relate it to anything?
They said they can't even describe it. It's one of those things, like when you eat some strange, it tastes like chicken. It's like, it didn't taste like chicken. You know what I mean?
I know this is going to sound very strange, and maybe I'm being influenced by the color that you said, but when you say that they say it has a smell, I know it's so strange, but I want to say it smells like the ocean looks. How weird is that? But you know what I'm talking about when you're...
Yeah. I mean...
There is a smell to ocean air that has nothing to do with fish or salt or anything else. It's purity.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get what you're... Yeah, I know the smell you're talking about.
Yes, thank you. And no, it smells like nothing else.
Yeah, I mean, I live, I bounce back and forth between Florida and LA, and, I mean, I grew up near the ocean, and the ocean definitely has a smell. Well, when I was on tour, I was in Chicago, and I had a day off. It was a day between events, so I went for a walk along Lake Michigan, and it looks like the ocean, yet it didn't smell like the ocean. It smelled, well, it was fresh water, so there wasn't that salty, fishy smell of the ocean, and it was amazing to me. Seeing Lake Michigan in all its beauty, it was one of the most breathtakingly beautiful things.
It's gorgeous.
Yeah, you just feel it's alive, and so I wonder if the astronauts get that feeling of space being alive, because once again we're dealing with electromagnetic energy fields. You're dealing with dark matter. You're dealing with gravitational, waves and fields. So I think that we live in very exciting times. I just hope that we do not incinerate ourselves into a nuclear, wasteland, because we finally gotten to the point where we have developed the scientific method to the extent that we can explore and examine and quantify the universe and the multiverses. And even if we cannot answer our questions, at the very least, we are presenting ourselves new questions. I mean, we've come a long way from the god Apollo flying his fiery chariot through the sky, and that the sun revolves around the earth. And now we're getting into the nature of particle physics, as opposed to what dark matter is, as opposed to if string theory is correct, which most scientists agree with, that is it possible in an alternate universe there would be additional laws of physics that we are unaware of, or laws of nature or of physics there which run contrary to what we understand as the laws of physics. And certainly that's highly speculative, but it certainly makes for great conversation.
Oh, sure it does. Hey, we do have a few questions here from the chat.
Sure.
I've been collecting them here. So the first one came from Tom Nicholas back when we were talking about Hawaii. So he was wondering if, with everything that's been going on there with the volcano, if there's been an increase in paranormal activity on the island.
Absolutely. And that's one of the reasons that I was there, was to examine and analyze that. And I think what's happening is, with the eruption, it's enhancing the electromagnetic field, which, once again, that's what paranormal, that's what we are, but that's what spirits are. So it's sort of an amplifier on a scale that I've never even begun to see.
Okay. Then from Sean Oldsmith, what do you think about the dust storm encircling the Earth?
Oh, I haven't heard about that one. Whoa.
Yeah,
they've been having major dust storms in Phoenix. My friend Kimber lives there, and it's been pretty severe.
Oh, so, all right. So it's not circling the Earth as in space. It's here on Earth.
Yeah, I don't. It might be the way Vanessa said. All he said was encircling the Earth. So yeah.
Well, that's interesting, Mike, because you brought up an interesting point earlier in one of your questions about, is Pele influencing global weather patterns? I mean, it certainly is in Hawaii, and I'm not saying that these dust storms are caused by it, but it is a distinct possibility that these dust storms could be the result of some other some activity like that. And what we're also seeing is what they call in the Pacific the Ring of Fire. Okay, so we recently we know we have the eruption in Hawaii, then Guatemala, a volcano erupted, and then in, I believe, the island of Bali in Indonesia, and those are all interconnected and part of the Pacific Ring of Fire. I've even heard people saying that, and I don't know if there's anything to substantiate this, but North Korea doing underground testing of nuclear devices, is that too destabilizing some subterranean structures, which are creating a chain reaction throughout the Ring of Fire? I mean, that is possible.
Could be. Yeah.
Yeah. So I would say too, yes, the dust storms that seem to be, I guess, an anomaly. Perhaps it's all these changes caused by the volcanoes which are influencing this. I think it's certainly a very plausible theory.
Yeah, well, I know that back in the 1800s, and I forget which volcanic eruption it was, but
Krakatoa.
Was it Krakatoa?
It was Krakatoa,
where it created
Java, which was also in Indonesia. Yes.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, I was going to say that
Krakatoa.
in the middle of June in Maine, they got frost because of that was one of the reactions from the volcano.
Yeah, I was reading something once that toward the during the Roman Empire, at the beginning of the Dark Ages, when the Western Roman Empire collapsed, there was accounts of like famine and all this, and in particles that were found in Roman pottery from the era appeared to be minerals consistent with a volcanic eruption. So there could have been an eruption, like in a place like Krakatoa, which created a dust cloud that filtered the sunlight, and exactly what happened with Krakatoa, causing like frost in June, and
Right.
So certainly, yeah.
Well,
So
and didn't they say that Vesuvius affected Egypt when it erupted?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Vesuvius was horrible, and most of the people that died in the eruption of Vesuvius in Pompeii, they died from poisonous gases, which would be sulfur dioxide. There was the explosion, and it overwhelmed them, and then came the lava flows. So volcanoes have a history and a proven track record of affecting weather patterns.
Yeah,
wow.
Absolutely. This was an interesting comment from Nellie Moen, and she's wondering if this will affect the weather. She says, I don't know if this went through with the comment. They've been having some connection issues in chat, and they've been blaming it on Amazon, which very may well be true. But she says, all the planets will be on the right side of the moon as of July 19th. Will this affect the weather?
You know, it's easy at first blush to dismiss astrology as hooey, and hocus pocus. However, in 1916, Albert Einstein theorized that gravitational waves are caused by two black holes which collide and then send forth ripples throughout the space-time continuum. And in 2016, LIGO, the Laser Interferometer Gravitational Observatory, proved that thousands of light years away, two black holes collided and Earth was being bombarded by gravitational waves. So if we can be affected by something that's thousands of light years away, why could we not be affected by the planets in our own solar system and their gravitational fields? So I would say that too is a very, very plausible theory.
Well, if you want to take it one step further, if what Nellie is saying is that on that day that all the planets in our solar system are going to be on the right side of the moon, it would be my opinion, and I'm no scientist, although I was born on Einstein's birthday, but it would be my opinion that would offset what we are used to having as our standard gravitational pull, and that it could cause additional ripples and additional disturbances and increase paranormal or supernatural activity, because you're taking what you're used to having as your groundwork and completely offsetting it to one side.
If you don't believe that the moon can affect things,
I do believe it.
Oh, certainly.
Talk to any cop, talk to any paramedic, talk to anybody that works in a mental health facility, and see what happens on a full moon.
That's why we call them lunatics.
Exactly.
That's where the word comes from.
Exactly.
It's exactly where the word comes from.
Anyone who thinks that a full moon doesn't affect a person needs to really rethink things, because if the moon is responsible for the ebb and flow of the tides, we are mostly water. What the hell do they think it's going to do to us? I work in pediatric dental. I can guarantee you that full moons wreak havoc.
Oh yeah, my mother was a teacher's aide, so she had anytime there was a full moon, she knew what was going on. Yeah,
damn right.
Interesting comment from Tom McNicholas. He says, in Chicago, we once had red rain due to dust from New Mexico.
Wow.
It's kind of interesting.
There you go.
And Kathy Ciliento, this is back from when we were talking about space, says, how can you smell space if it has no oxygen and you need oxygen to breathe?
Oh, that's what I was wondering. I think what happens is after they do a spacewalk and then they close the airlock and repressurize it, it smells differently than it ever did before. So they're saying that where did this odor come from? It's not coming from anything within the space station or the space shuttle. It is the residual of what was outside.
Okay.
So,
and it would be on their clothing. It would be on
Yeah.
on everything that they had on, and like you said, anything that seeps in before everything is closed and depressurized.
Well, think about when if you walk into a smoky bar and you come home, what do you smell like?
Yeah, you smell like cigarettes. Yeah.
So yeah.
Mm-hmm. True story. Wow, I'm just amazed.
Yeah. And Fran Molino is wondering, Mark, if you've ever been to Pompeii.
Wow, that's a whole story in and of itself.
Oh, really?
I was supposed to go to Pompeii with one of my best friends, and he was so excited because we were both going to take a month off, and I'm an archaeology and history guy, and he was real bright, and I remember he said, I got these special tickets, we're going to go. He had it all charted out. We're going to spend a couple days in Pompeii Herculaneum. And I remember saying, we're not going to go. And he said, well, you have a real bad attitude toward this. And I said, I got this bad feeling that we're not going to go. And 2 weeks before we were supposed to go, he dropped dead from a brain aneurysm.
Oh, wow.
And so I never went.
I'm sorry.
And and that was, I guess that's one of the
That's heartbreaking.
Being a psychic. And I'll never forget giving the eulogy. We did it at his house because this guy, I mean, he had like this tropical rainforest in his backyard and all that. And it was very distracting because I'm up there trying to talk about it, and I'm looking toward the back of the crowd, and there I saw him standing like glowing and like beaming.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't say anything at the time, only to some of his family members afterwards, because, when you go around saying, oh, there he is right there, people, it's hard enough doing what Vanessa and I do. And I think one of the biggest challenges is that we constantly have to justify ourselves to skeptics, cynics, and religious nuts. Okay, there's a difference between people of faith and a religious fanatic, and there really is a difference between a skeptic and a cynic. Cynics are like, I don't believe this, I don't believe this, and it tries one's patience.
Sure.
That I constantly have to justify myself that, oh, you're doing a cold reading. I mean, when you start giving specific facts and data that nobody could possibly know, and people go, you're doing, a cold reading, it really gets annoying after a while. But on the other hand, that's also part of it. So I guess we just have to put up with it, don't we, Vanessa?
Yes, we do. And I'm going to make you an offer right now. If you ever decide to go, now let me get through September and get my finances in order. But if you ever decide to go, and you have something of his that you need to take there anyway, if you ever decide to go, you let me know, and I will go with you.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, being an archaeology guy, and that's like, once again, when my brand is not only the psychic lawyer, but the psychic explorer, is because since I've been a child, all I've ever wanted to do is to be able to visit these mystical and spiritual sites. I remember with the first time I got to see Stonehenge, oh my God, I was just like, I was so enamored with it. And then there's the inevitable American tourist walking around going, what's the big deal with this? It's not that big. And they're, and I said, stop. I go, this is 4,500 years old. This was constructed at or around the same time as the Great Pyramid in Egypt. And there are a series of rings. In other words, there's the inner circle, the outer circle, and the rings of Stonehenge correspond with an increase in natural radiation coming up out of the earth. So how did these people 4,500 years ago know that, oh, right, exactly in this pattern is an upsurge of Earth's natural radioactivity, and build these incredible stone monoliths along there? And they're all, of course, they're looking like, so, and I've been to so many places where people are like,
yeah, it's like they just don't get it.
They don't get it.
They
They're
don't care.
expecting everything to be a Disney ride.
Right.
And I like Disney, but they're always expecting. I had a funny experience one time. I was in a museum, and the Ramesses the Great was on tour, and there was a whole bunch of school kids there. They could have been more than like maybe third grade. And I love Egyptology, so I'm going around, and there was this one case, and it had a cubit in it. And a cubit, it kind of looked like a yardstick and had all these hieroglyphs. And the teacher's like, this is a cubit. It's a cubit. It's like a yardstick. And the kids are like giving her a hard time. And I could see they're all like agitated. So I walked up and I butted in and I said, can I try? And she goes, what? And I said to the kids, I go, does anyone know the story of Noah's Ark? And I remember this little African-American goes, yeah, I do. I go, do you remember when God told Noah to build the ark? He told him to measure it in cubits. He goes, yeah. I go, well,
there you go.
All of a sudden, the kids are like, oh, my God. And they're crowding around like, I want to see. You know, and
relate it to something.
Yeah, you have to make it relatable. And people look at history and spirit. I understand they're not even really teaching history anymore. I mean, I was lecturing to a high school class, and I said, you know, name our 3 greatest presidents. And all I got were vacuous stares, and someone said the dude got shot. And I'm like, well, which of our 4 presidents have been assassinated would that be? I don't know. And I said, and then someone goes, the dude in the wheelchair. And it's like, wow.
Yeah, that's terrible. Now, I've always said that good history teachers are great storytellers. You know, the ones that just give you names and dates. You know, I've had a couple of those, and you don't retain just memorizing names and dates. But I've also had a couple that when they talked about history, they told the actual stories, and so that you could actually relate to the people. And those 2 guys were fantastic. So
that's the way it should be, though. Mark Anthony, I have to tell you this just because you made me think of it. I have many proud moments as a mother, many. But one of my proudest, my son was 6 years old, and we were here in Oklahoma City. The Roman exhibit from the Louvre was here at our museum. And I took my 6-year-old son to it. And I told him, just like any mother would, you know, don't touch anything. Well, he had to be the one telling me not to, because I'm walking in and I'm like, oh, you know, and I see Minerva is one of my patron goddesses, and I see her statue from across the room. It's only 3 feet tall, and I spotted it 30 paces, and I just start bawling. And I'm standing there just bawling, you know, at this statue, many ancestors named after her. And I look over, and my 6-year-old son is standing next to the sarcophagus with Artemis drawing her bow at the hunter to sick the dogs on. And I think I'm saying that right. I can see the picture in my head, but I can't remember the full story. My 6-year-old son did, and was telling a crowd of people all about Artemis and the sarcophagus.
Nice.
That's one of my proudest moments as a mother.
High five. Good mom.
That's very cool. Very, very cool.
So
right.
Thank you very much.
And so we have a few more questions from the chat. We'll hit real quick. This is from another one from Sean Oldsmith. I'll go ahead and take this one. What would happen if Yellowstone blows? We're all screwed.
Oh, geez.
We're all screwed.
Yeah, we're dead.
That's it. From Spooky, this is Dawn. What is Mark's views on the Black Knight satellite? Does it have any effect on us?
The Black Knight
Knight satellite. I'm not familiar with that.
I'm not. Could she elaborate? Because I know that there is an object that's going through our solar system, and it is unlike any other asteroid that's ever been observed, and there's even a thought that it could be an alien spacecraft. So I don't know if that's what she's referring to. My thoughts are, you know, we get all excited about aliens coming to visit us, and I'm really hoping that, you know, it's going to be the Vulcans, but it could be the Klingons or the Borg. So, and you know what's funny is Stephen Hawking also said not long before he died, we need to be very careful about trying to contact extraterrestrial activity. You know, we're assuming that the pacifistic, new agey granola types dominated that planet as opposed to the Nazis. So,
very good point. Very good point. And
I just think we're not sure what we're going to get. I mean, it seems to be, either we're getting the, like you said, Mark, the hippie attitude that everybody's gonna come down here and be peace and love, kumbaya, and then you have the other side where they're just gonna invade and annihilate us all to rape the country or the planet of resources. So it's like you got one or the other here for the views.
Well, let's look at our own world history. When Cortez landed in Mexico, okay, and it was foretold in the Aztec religion that the god Quetzalcoatl would return and he would be white and have hair on his face.
Right.
Okay,
so they thought they were gods.
Was white, had hair, so they started giving him gold and worshiping him, and he saw the gold and then saw the religion, which was based on human sacrifice, and thought, well, since I brought some Catholic priests with me and we're basically an extension of the Inquisition, these people are devil worshippers, must be eradicated, and we'll take their gold while we're at it. So
took their gold and destroyed all of their history.
Destroyed all their history, burned, and when they invaded the Mayan areas, burned all the Mayan codices, their books and their knowledge. And the technological disparity between the Spaniards of the early 1500s and the Aztecs was essentially about 1,000 years. I mean, the Spanish came with steel, with gunpowder, with heavy artillery, cannons, and horses. And the Aztecs were basically using some spears and some bow and arrows, and were absolutely no match. And then, of course, there were the diseases that the Europeans brought, which wiped out over 90% of the population in Central and Mesoamerica within maybe 10 to 15 years. So you got to be very careful when aliens land and we want to run up. And I'm not saying if they come, we start shooting at them, but, we're always assuming that they're going to be the live long and prosper as opposed to the Zeke Heil. Right. And if I'm doing that, that's because I'm illustrating a point. I don't want someone going, oh, he's a Nazi.
Yeah, somebody would go there, of course. Yep. So, from Tim Schoen, we're getting close to the end here, so let's take this last one here. From Tim Schoen, is there an increase in paranormal activity in Japan lately? They have been having a number of earthquakes in recent years.
I don't know. I have spent quite a bit of time in Japan, and their belief in the Shinto religion, the Kami, the K-A-M-I, would be what you and I might consider to be the elementals. So I would not be surprised if the geologic activity has sort of stimulated the spiritual activity there.
What is your thought on elementals?
I believe they exist. I've actually seen them. Saw one in Hawaii, more than one, but I came into contact with a very powerful one. And the fascinating thing is one of the camera crew snapped a picture just because they're doing a continuity thing. And then when we were looking at it afterwards, it's like, what is this? And it was this stream of the silvery green stream, which I saw a very similar entity at the Stanley Hotel in Estes Park in Colorado. Anyway, I mean, we could talk about elementals for a long time. I've encountered them several times in my life. They're a non-human spiritual intelligence. They're not, evil or necessarily negative. They're just aligned with minerals, plants, and animals, different energies, whereas they're on a different frequency than human spirits and angelic entities, in a nutshell.
Okay. Very good. Well, we were about at our hour mark, if you could believe that. So it's gone by pretty quick.
It has. I look forward to coming back. I love speaking with you, Vanessa, and with Mike, and I love taking the questions from your chat room. You have such an educated and intelligent fan base and audience, and I just know it's going to keep growing and growing.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, we love our Mad Hatters, and yeah, they do ask some great questions. So, Mark, how can everybody find you?
evidenceofeternity.com. That's my website. You can find out about my books, my tour, and I'm going to be all over the U.S. For the rest of the year and probably the rest of my life. But it's the same as my last book, evidenceofeternity.com.
All right, and there's your books right there, Evidence of Eternity and Never Letting Go. So be sure to check those out. Check out his website, and your speaking schedule is posted up there?
It is. I'm headed next to Dallas. I'll be at the Unity of Dallas Church on the 28th of July for an evening of spirit communication. Then I head to Denver for an event there, and then I will be at the Veil Symposium, where I'll be presenting the scientific basis for reincarnation on August 2nd, and then on the evening of August 3rd, I'll be doing an evening of spirit communication where I'll be connecting random audience members with loved ones in spirit. Over the first week and the last week of August, first week of September, I'll be in Seattle at the East West Bookstore and at the International Association of Near-Death Studies, where I'll be doing spirit communication. But my talk is called May the Force Be With You, Near-Death Experiences and Interdimensional Communication.
Oh, wow.
Very
Now that'll
cool.
be interesting. That'll be really
Very
interesting.
cool.
So, well, thank you again, Mark. We'll definitely have to have you back soon. Really do appreciate it.
We'll have a whole show on elementals.
We could do a whole show on elementals. Yeah.
We should.
Okay, we'll do
Sounds
that next time.
good.
All
All right.
right.
Well, thank you very much. God bless you.
All right. Have a great one,
Bye,
Mark.
Mark.
Bye-bye. All right, so that was Mark Anthony. We're not signing off just yet because we haven't done shout-outs, and I know Vanessa wants to talk about a couple of things. Before you do that, Vanessa, I do want to recognize a $5 Australian super chat from Robert White. Thank you very much.
Ooh, thank you, Robert.
That is awesome. And I do want to apologize to everyone for the quality because I saw all of your comments down there. The stream coming out of here is fine. I do see posted, like there's a notification here because I'm watching the chat and everything. It says video output low. Some people did suggest that it's Amazon Prime Day, so maybe there's high traffic on the internet in general, and that very well could be. It's just it's not here. So I don't know if it's internet traffic, YouTube in general, Frontier, because we always blame Frontier. So but we're good over here. I shut down some additional programs and things like that, so I don't know. And the hell was that?
I don't know.
Did you hear that?
Uh-huh.
It was like something fell in here, and I didn't see anything fall. Okay, that was weird. It totally took me off the track of what I was going to say, but okay. So Vanessa, you want to go ahead and give them your bit of news, and then we'll do shout outs, and then we'll go for Inside the Upside Down.
Yes, I wanted to ask everybody, just because I don't know how to go about this. I'm pulling it up right now so that I'm not ignoring anyone. Everybody knows that I'm going to be in Chicago in September for my art stuff, and I call him my agent, but he's my dealer, Matthew Virgin. It's just dealer sounds weird because it sounds like I'm a druggie, and I'm not. So I wanted to ask anyone if y'all know anyone in newspaper or in radio that I can send this press release to, because we're all responsible for getting our own out there, all of the artists and anyone involved. Please hit me up to give you an idea. I just wanted to read one small excerpt of it. And this is what Matt and the publicist wrote about me. And I'm so proud, so just bear with me for a second. It says, the auction will be featuring several prominent artists, but is proud to announce 2 unique paintings that will be up for auction by up-and-coming spiritual artist Vanessa Hogel, also client of 501's founder, Matt Virgin. Vanessa is a 3-time best-selling author in her genre. Her paranormal nonfiction books are filled with spiritual experiences she's had in the United States and abroad. Vanessa is an empath and medium who also uses her art as a conduit to express her mediumship abilities. Through sketches, sculptures, and paintings, she brings life to the images her spiritual intuition guides her to create. Her art form is not just about putting a picture or a theme on the medium she uses. By using her inner self and guides, she creates amazing works that are not only visually impacting, but also reach her audience and collectors' inner spirits themselves. So score!
Awesome. That's
Anyway.
awesome. Yeah, well,
that's only a part of it. So if anyone knows anyone I can send it to, that'd be great.
That would be awesome. That'd be awesome. And we'll see if anybody responds. The chat is... There's something just completely wrong with the broadcast or with the feed or something, because they're way behind the chat. They're back on when we were talking about Star Trek. You remember how long ago that was?
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's way behind. So one of those crazy nights. So let's go ahead and get the shout outs, which the show will probably long be over by the
I know, right?
by the time that they're seeing this. So, okay. So, chat shenanigator Shauna, she said a long time ago she was just listening because of whatever issues with her the keyboard on her phone. So, thank you, Shauna, for sort of shenanigating the chat. You were there in spirit, I guess. Donna Gordon, our Cheshire cat, that's in the house, and I think I saw Bonnie Halperin in there earlier. Diane Hilbert, our new fairy queen, thank you very much for joining us tonight. Fran Molino, thank you as well. Oh, I just have to get to Super Chat Superstars. That would be Tom McNicholas and Robert White. Thank you guys very much. So, of course, there's Andrew Cox, Joe Chandler, Nellie Moen. I mean, yeah, Vanessa, they're back here. Nellie Moen saying, great show, Mark. And so he's been gone for how many minutes now?
Yeah. They're backed up.
Yeah, they're really backed up. B3 Airspace, one of our Deep Down the Rabbit Hole Patreon patrons. Thank you very much. Luli Tubi, thank you as well. Bethany Warner, Candy Orton. Yeah, Candy was sending me some messages saying, "Hey, where's your smile?" And
You're tired.
Very tired. Very long drive, long weekends. It was great. Ocean State Paracon. But it's like I got back in yesterday after all that driving. My parents wanted to have a birthday dinner for me. My birthday's on Saturday, so I did that. I was at their house too late. Came back home. I was supposed to work on stuff and just crashed the moment I hit the couch to work on stuff. So it was.
I don't blame you.
Yeah. So I'm trying here. I'm trying. It's just, and then I had to go back to work today. It was just everything was backed up, so it was overwhelming. So Deep Down the Rabbit Hole Patreon patrons, we have Tom McNicholas, Grizz, B3 Airspace, Zippy Davis, BD Flint, Pamela Queen, and Dawn Francisco. Thank you guys very much for being Deep Down the Rabbit Hole Patreon patrons. All right, so continuing on with the shout-outs. Let's see. Imla Buddha 61, thank you very much. Tim Schoen, thank you as well. I think I got Tim earlier, though. Yeah, there's Spooky. There's Dawn. There's Trisha Egley. Thank you very much. Katie Palmer. Thank you as well. Tammy Heitzman, as always. Thank you very much. Bridget Willis. Thank you too. X-Group Home Kid. And there's Shay Carroll. I did see Chuck Banks in there as well. So we are simulcasting on Beyond the Light Network, and which is on Spreaker, and then also on Periscope. So. There's Aperture Science. Thanks for joining us tonight. Really do appreciate that. Aperture Science has some, actually some good comments down there in the on some of the videos sometimes. So I didn't
get to see a lot of the chat.
Yeah, Aperture Science is from Portal, by the way. So which is a very cool game. Here's Chanel F. Thank you very much for joining us. Pungai Fungi. Who is a girl. Everybody spells it PUNFUNGUY, and it's like, it's funny.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love it.
All right, yeah, there's Bonnie Halperin right there.
Hey, Bonnie!
I think that's Granny Vapes. Awesome. Thank you very much. There's Sean Oldsmith. And yeah, Fairy Queen. So Fairy Queen is Diane Hilbert. There's Kathy.
Aww.
There's Kathy Ciliento. Thank you very much. And I'm gonna scroll back down. They may have caught back up. Greg Grinkin. Thank you for joining us again. Yeah, because I know they're way behind. I think that's probably going to be it for the shout outs. If we missed you, sorry, no offense.